I want to continue to burn fat after a fast. I think everybody does. But typically, right when you break a fast, you're spiking your insulin, and that's stopping the fat burning process, just what we have to live with. But if you actually look at how the body works in terms of specifically insulin and glucagon ratios, there might be some ways you can manipulate it a little bit so you get a little bit more fat loss even after your fast is over. After this video, I want you to check out Hiya. So you know that I have a 3.5-year-old and I have a 1-year-old at home, and we do our best to feed them really, really good food. We absolutely do. But the reality is, it's nice to be able to supplement a little bit with some fruits and veggies and things like that. And the nice thing is, Hiya is a multivitamin that is set up for kids in a chewable form that doesn't have any gums, doesn't have any artificial sweeteners, doesn't have any nasty stuff, okay? It's completely free of that stuff. Sweetened with monk fruit. It's made from 12 different organic fruits and veggies. It seriously is awesome. It really is cool. And I know that when you have kids, it becomes a little bit of a struggle. It was for me, really finding, I don't know, my kids always wanted to be able to have the sugary vitamins and stuff. They just somehow attract them, even with their bright colors and stuff. So Hiya is cool because it's the first pediatrician approved kids multivitamin that is in this category. So if you look at most multivitamins, they're made up from standards from the 1980s, and these 1980 standards just don't live up to where the deficiencies are today. So if you have kids, I highly recommend you check out Hiya. And the cool thing is you get this bottle that your kids can decorate and put stickers on, and kind of comes with it. It just makes it a lot more fun for them. And believe me, if you have kids, you know that sometimes it's just those little things that make a big difference. And then this is refillable, so then each month you just get kind of a refill pack, which makes it super simple. But the best part is 50% off your first order if you use the code Thomas. So it's a special deal just for parents that watch my channel, or if you're an adult and you just want a good tasting multivitamin. But use code Thomas down below with the link in the description. And big thank you to Hiya for the support on this channel and for looking out for the parents that watch my channel, because this product was created by 2 dads just like myself that see that there is a giant need for better for you stuff for our kiddos. So awesome, and kudos to you. So check them out down below in the description. So I've always paid attention to insulin with a fast. It's very important in terms of kind of manipulating how your body utilizes fuel. But up until a few months ago, I hadn't really been looking at the insulin to glucagon ratio equation. And that's sounds super daunting and super scary, but it's actually quite simple. When we eat food, we have an insulin spike. And when we have an insulin spike, it's commonly thought that we would stop the fat burning process. And 9 times out of 10, that really is true. Like when we have an insulin spike, insulin is absorptive, and it means you're not really burning anymore. So yeah, well, at the end of a fast, when you consume food, you have an insulin spike. So that would mean that all the benefit of the fast is kind of done, and now you're just moving on into regular life. But there's something called the insulin to glucagon ratio, as I mentioned, and that insulin to glucagon ratio is, just like its name implies, how much your insulin is higher than your glucagon, or how much your glucagon is higher than your insulin. Because insulin and glucagon are very, very polar opposite. Okay, they oppose each other. When insulin is high, a lot of times glucagon is low. But sometimes insulin and glucagon can go up together. And what I mean by this is, normally when you break a fast, your insulin spikes and your glucagon drops a little bit, and that makes it so that, well, of course, you're going to stop the fat burning process. But when you consume protein, it's a whole different world. You see, protein triggers an insulin spike along with a glucagon spike. But let's look at the data here, because there is some interesting research that demonstrates that when you are in a fasted state, you're probably sitting at an insulin-glucagon ratio of about 0.8. Okay, what that means is that your insulin levels are low, but your glucagon levels are high. Okay, because glucagon stimulates fat utilization, fat burning. It stimulates glycogen being released into the bloodstream. It stimulates your body to use different fuels from your body because you're not eating. We want glucagon to be high. It's very fat burning oriented. Okay, when we consume protein directly out of a fasted state, we are in such a good baseline insulin to glucagon ratio that it actually drives up glucagon a little bit higher than insulin. And we actually end up with an even better insulin to glucagon ratio of approximately 0.5. So that means that right when we break our fast, we consume protein and only protein with very little fat, very little, probably no carbohydrates. And what it ends up doing is it drives up a small amount of insulin. Okay, because protein is insulinogenic, but it's also driving up glucagon along with it. And it does this because when we have protein, it is a protective mechanism for our body to also release glucagon. Because if we were to have protein and have it secrete insulin and have it spike insulin, well, that would drop our blood sugar so much that we would go hypoglycemic. So it's a natural response for our body when we have an insulin spike from protein to also drive up glucagon. But when our baseline insulin to glucagon ratio is already so good at the end of a fast, something unique happens where our glucagon goes slightly higher. And that means, well, glucagon is very fat burning related. Okay, if we have higher levels of glucagon, that means we are burning more fat. So for a short period of time after our fast, we can actually get extreme, or at least it's purely anecdotal, okay, purely hypothetical based on different research. But I can speculate, let's put it that way, that if you were to have protein and only protein right when you break your fast, you have a little bit of a window in which you're actually burning more fat than you were during your fast, because glucagon levels are so high and higher than insulin, and your ratio is better. You know, that's probably gonna last maybe an hour or so, and then it's time to actually eat some real food, because you can't let yourself have a micronutrient deficiency. But perhaps after you have that protein right when you break your fast, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go for a walk and do some low intensity cardio. And this is all relatively new to me. I'm putting this stuff together and trying to figure out how can I kind of hack my way through getting a little bit more out of a fast. So some low intensity cardio after having a tiny bit of protein, like 15 to 40 grams of protein, somewhere in there, depending on what digestively feels good for you. Like whey protein, if you can handle whey protein. I usually do a pea protein isolate or a pea protein hemp blend. That just seems better for me. Or lean chicken with practically no fat on it. Lean ground turkey, like 99% lean ground turkey. Stay away from beef, it digests too slow, and the insulin spike might be a little too high. I would stay away from eggs too. So usually lean poultry, and don't get me wrong, I like eggs. I just don't think it's gonna have the best insulin glucagon response. So lean poultry, protein shake, probably the best route to go. And then that way you're going to have the glucagon level high, so hormone sensitive lipase is elevated, meaning you're mobilizing a lot more fat. Go for a walk and actually utilize the fat that you're mobilizing. So there's mobilization, which is called lipolysis, which is where you're actually, glucagon is involved with that, the liberation of fat. And then oxidation is where you're actually burning it. You have to actually move to burn it. So glucagon can release the fat, but unless you're moving, you're not going to oxidize it. Okay, so let the protein skew that ratio, so glucagon goes up. Okay, then you're going to go out and go for a little walk, or walk on the treadmill at a slight incline at like 4 or 5% for 15, 20 minutes. It's not going to be a game changer, but it's going to break that little plateau you might be stuck at and get you a little bit more out of it. But it's also going to benefit you as far as insulin sensitivity goes and helps you out a lot with glucose tolerance. So just a little fasting tip to add to your arsenal to get you a little bit more out of it. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow, and don't forget to check out Hiya down below and use code THOMAS to save 50% off. See you soon.